Poe's answer, to speak with that unspoken voice in those poems by Goethe, to respond creatively in writing, whether it's poetry, whether it's a fictional diary entry, whether it's a piece of prose, whether it's a short dramatic sketch, whether it's a piece of hip-hop, all kinds of different responses we've had. So I put the competition out there with a strong visual image, and please forgive me, I saturated your social media feeds with the ideas in an attempt to get people to enter. And we were very successful. I think we got around 150 people entering, which might not sound like a huge amount, but anyone who's ever tried to run a competition that's this specific before will know that's a roaring success. So thank you all, those of you who entered, and congratulations to everybody who entered for having entered. And the idea was, I think, that we didn't want to get people just to respond in one language. So you could enter in German, of course, because this story comes from Germany. But you could also enter in English. And the responses have been incredibly diverse, and we're going to hear from some of them tonight. So that's the story of the two chairs. That's where it's come from.
Okay. So well done, Eric. Two men, two sides. As one sits, the other stands. One with a smile, one with a frown. One is white, one is black. But now it doesn't matter because time has passed. One has flowers and a whole green field behind him. One has a wasteland and a whole land of trash behind him. He now stands, talking about happiness. Why are you so dull, so dark? I can see a hollow soul-like cosmos with no planets and no shine of stars. Let me talk about my life, how it was and how I lived. I had the fullest and the happiest of lives and lived with a grin. I was rich and kind. I gave and never asked. As he sits back down, behind him appears a vision like a memory, showing him with 3 daughters, helping a charity centre, living the mantra I loved and never hated. He finishes his sentence. The vision changes to a peaceful scene with his family at a reunion, having fun and spending precious time. Behind him appears the field again, but this time it was full of flowers and a beautiful sparkling ray of sunshine. He now stands, dreading the hatred pumping in his veins, conscious of his bad life. Why are you so happy, so bright with light? I can see a soul full like a blue sky never marred with clouds, just a bright sun to watch over me as I talk about my life, how I lived and how it was. I had the worst and lowest of lives, and I lived with a frown. I was poor and sad, I took and never had. As he sits back down, behind him appears a vision like a memory, showing him and his 2 sons are scamming a shopkeeper, living the mantra, I live and had to cope. He didn't have the breath to continue his tale.
I've never been able to look Zainab in the eyes. Sometimes we'll bump into her in the corridor. Me and Krista and Sabine. And there's this mousy kind of timidness to the way she walks that kills me. We won't ever say anything. Not at school. Krista will arch an eyebrow, the way that she does. And I suppose I'll laugh a little louder than normal. Zainab knows what's coming. It's moments like that when I think I'm probably disassociating most. Someone could tell me, you've never seen that girl before in your life, and I'd take their word for it. Ignore her hijab, and Zainab's just one girl among many, bland and hazy as sleet. She looks so fragile and bird-like. You'd think the very sun on her skin would shatter her into pieces. I've hit her enough times to know that's not true. I always watch her back when she passes us. I'm disgusting. Can't look her in the face. Can't take my eyes off her as she goes. I see her slip lower and lower into the crowd, a falling star. A couple of weeks back, Zainab went to the teachers about us. We'd been harassing her, calling her names. We were typical, bitchy, popular girls, the sort you see in teen movies and hate. got more serious when she told them that the bruise under her eye was mine, the cut on her forehead my gift. It still oozed out pus sometimes, sticky as the truth. The word Islamophobia was thrown around. I wanted to cry. My father thinks it's funny that we do what we do. And honestly, I'd never have hit her if Krista hadn't told me to. I hate myself more for all the excuses. Sabine didn't really get it. We're not scared, she said. We're not afraid of anyone. We're not afraid of her. That's not what this is about, I snapped. She flinched. Krista started planning what next. Zainab. As if her small, wan face could frighten anyone. She always looked so lost, like the daughter of the man in the moon. We cornered her yesterday, days after she told on us. Maybe she thought we really had listened to the teachers. She was headed for the train station when we did it. I think she lives a long way away. We treat her as though she's from another planet entirely. I grabbed her arm, pulling her back into the underpass. Krista and Sabine laughing, just like they do. Sabine had that horrible smile she puts on. It looks nice at first, until you realise everything nice about it is fake. It's like the lid of a coffin. The smile is just a cover for the festering nastiness beneath. What are you doing? Zainab asked me in her accented English, her voice needling its way behind my eyelids, as if she didn't know. I swallowed, my fingernails digging in harder. I imagined the look of those 5 half moons beneath her abaya. She started to sag in my grip, and I felt her waning. Sabine was nodding at me to hurry up, show Zainab what's what. Zainab tried to stare back at me, defiantly, but I couldn't meet her gaze. My fist flying through the air, swift, unburdened hummingbird's wing, connecting with her cheek, her jaw, watching blood sprout around her lips like dying stars. Laughter in my ears, laughter in my mouth, laughter clogging my nose and stopping me from breathing and falling scratching, snatching from my fingertips. Zainab cried out, and my world crumbled around me. I couldn't cope with her humanity. I stopped. Krista waited a beat, then nodded at me. Go on, she said. You've barely touched her. But Zainab was moaning softly, like a mother might weep over her dying child. Her hands clutched at her face, her headscarf falling, as she seemed broken in all the ways that hurt me most, like shards of glass to cut myself on every time I touched her. She was broken in the way that society has forced, a jigsaw puzzle piece that wasn't allowed to fit for all her trying. Shame. Everyone is the same when it comes down to flesh and blood and breath. I'm taking her to the hospital, I told Krista. Look at her face. Oh, Krista spat. She was glaring at me frostily, her nose wrinkling up. I hated her. Or maybe just myself. I put my arm around Zainab's waist. She couldn't stand properly, tripping over her own feet like a baby. Yet, despite it all, she struggled to squirm away. Don't touch me, she whispered, her voice raspy. She couldn't stand it, but she couldn't even stand. So I shook my head and murmured apology after apology. Shame. Sabine tried to call after me as we left, but Krista stopped her short with a look. I didn't think of them, didn't think of anything. It was only a short walk to the hospital. I'm in the waiting room now, actually. The chair I sit on is painted black, and the colour swims in front of me, sticking to the inside of my skull. When Zainab appears at last, she sits down silently on the chair opposite mine. Honestly, I'm surprised how much I'm worried about her. She wasn't admitted for ages, but the blood just kept on coming. Her chair is green, which is the colour of sickness, but also the colour of hope. I steel myself and look into her face, into her eyes. They're grey, just like mine, and my stomach twists uneasily as I watch my reflection balk. It's just like looking in a mirror, seeing everything that's ever hurt me hurled back out. I'm sorry, I say. The words float between us. Zainab holds my gaze, steady as the hand of God. She understands me the same way the moon understands the sun. She gives a small smile, and we pull each other back to earth. Thanks.
So the first piece that I'm going to read is called 10 Men. And I'm not going to say anything about what that means because I think it explains it through the piece. Also, I have to apologise, I'm just getting over a flu, so can everybody hear me? Yeah? Okay. We say 10 men for rice, not Ruz like other Arabs. I heard a rumour that the word came from the British when Iraqi farmers refused in gentle protest to feed the colonisers. Shipments of 10 men rice arrived from India, heaved onto the backs of those same farmers with sweat on their faces and revolution in their hearts. You are next, the bags of rice teased. Just like the 10 men, my great-grandmother came to Iraq on a boat, an Indian bride for an Iraqi soldier whose eyes had turned further east. My friend emigrated to the UK after marriage. She used to say she felt like a tolerated periphery with one foot always facing the door. But my great-grandmother's skin mimicked belonging. Though the foreign faces around her used letters she couldn't pronounce and ate spices lacking the fiery comfort of her homeland. She gifted her daughter with Indian features and the knowledge of biryani that burns your tongue. My family have learned to turn their eyes westwards. They tried to bury the story of a woman who sang Hindi songs in Iraq. And with triumph in their eyes, they call my younger sister Snow White.